the failure of a society to require
Yeah.
a man to become a man and set aside childish things. So I think what we just talked about, is there a biological thing happening? Are the plastics shrinking the taints and creating this man-child phenomenon on a biological level? Maybe, but let's put that aside.
Well, first, to see that, we'd have to see if women are equally immature to men
yeah.
as compared to, let's say, our great-grandmothers.
Well, is a man kind of... I think that they've said this about the Italians a lot. That Italian men... this is just what I heard. That there's a phenomenon in Italy of a failure to launch, like men staying with their mothers for too long, coddling, men being coddled by their mothers.
Well, that could also be just the birth rates declining.
Yeah.
Because we've seen, going from like 6 kids per mother to down to like, what are we at, 2 now?
Yeah.
So someone of your generation was at 3. Okay, moving forward to Gen Z and younger, what is that, 1 or 2? In the developed world, now it's like a mother has maybe 1, it's like 1.4, something like that in Italy. So you don't have 0.4 kids.
Right.
I don't know what that means. You have 1 or 2.
Well, statistically, yes.
Yeah, statistically, you have like 1 or 2. And so if you have a girl, then you mother your child more, and then why is he going to want to leave?
Right. And I mean, I imagine that is one of the major factors of it, right? Like my grandmother's generation, my grandmother was one of 18.
Yeah.
Right? Like those kids were fending for themselves early. You didn't get immediate attention. Like our boy.
Oh, we worship our boy.
Yeah. It's going to be hard there will be active, intentional things happening to keep him from becoming a man-child.
Yeah.
Which is going to be tough. Because I think what makes you, quote-unquote, man is experiencing and overcoming adversity.
Rising to the occasion.
Yeah, and as a society, it feels like what we are doing across the board is eliminating adversity. Our goal seems to be, especially in, left-leaning societies,
Yeah, especially
to
left.
eliminate hardship and adversity as much as possible. Everything in our culture seems to be like, how much are we willing to sacrifice to mitigate how much risk? It feels like we were talking about the other day, or on a couple podcasts ago maybe, the idea that families feel limited to 2 children if they don't have the means to buy a bigger car. Right?
Yeah.
And then if you look at the actual numbers of lives saved by these regulations, booster seat regulations, versus how many kids probably didn't happen because of them, it's that as an example, like everything seems to be, we seem to be more and more willing to give up more and more to ensure less and less security.
Well, Jordan Peterson would say that's the overbearing mother.
Ah.
Because the masculine and feminine, I'm just saying, that's what he would say. The masculine and the feminine, we see this the way that we treat the boy.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my God, he's fussing. Oh my God, he stubbed his toe. Like, I freak out. I'm like, no, he should be comfortable all the time. And you're like, no, he's supposed to stub his toe more.
Yeah.
So then you have that in society, and you kind of have a mothering kind of government, whereas before the father is supposed to be like, well, you go out in the world and you get hurt a little bit, but you grow stronger.
Yeah.
And it used to be that the world is going to make you strong no matter what. So I'm on the side of, loving the person totally and mitigating all the risk possible because this world is so dangerous. You make the world less and less dangerous, and then you just kind of like smother people.
Yeah.
Until it's very rare that you see a man that breaks out of that completely. And really, I think the difference of a man who breaks out of that and one that just, falls for it. We're all equal, men and women are all equal, we should act more feminine and adapt to them, is a good father. Yeah, and to say that men and women are equal and they should be given the same equal treatment, but really, and this, people are going to get mad at me for saying this, you got to be rougher with the boys. You can't treat them like the girls.
Right.
Because girls, I'm just going to say it right now, I get away with more shit because I have to have kids.
Right. Well, let's take it from like a young man who 16, 17, they are encouraged not to take risks, obviously. I feel like that's always been a thing, right? But you do. But they don't, like my risk taking was like trying to meet girls at out. I was at the mall probably. Or,
Yeah, they have to talk to girls, but people don't talk to girls anymore.
Yeah,
so
you have to
there's
go
not
out
even that.
and like actually meet people. The internet was what it is now, and you had to actually go out with your friends and go do stuff. And I've heard really compelling arguments about they've completely eliminated what they would call like third spaces. Like you're not at home, you're not at work or school. Like it's just a place you go to hang out.
Or like the mall.
Right. When I was a kid,
Video
it was
store.
the mall. There were a
Yeah.
lot of people there. There were things to do that didn't cost like a lot of money. Like I could go to the mall with $10 and have a pretty decent time.
Yeah, you get a taco.
Yeah.
And a Coke, you can buy a taco and a Coke for a girl, too.
Right.
You sit down, girl, you want a taco and Coke? You hungry? Because you had to have game.
Yeah.
I remember guys had to have game, and
I
it
did
was
not.
like the boy group had to have game on the girl group, and it was like, it was a dance. It was a social dance.
And there's an element of like being more, you have to be more mature to go navigate the world like that. And now I don't think kids do that really.
Well, even just like going on the bus. And when we're talking about the man child, we're talking about like a 40-year-old man, a 30-year-old man who refuses to grow up and get married and, have kids. And in order to say there's a man child, you have to say that there's no female.
Well, the other thing, before we move on to like a grown person, like a kid in that age range, like you have access to pornography that I couldn't imagine.
It was probably for the best you didn't have
time.
access.
Like I can't imagine how apathetic I would be.
Can I say something really inappropriate?
Sure.
Are you like off and thinking, man, I'm glad kids aren't seeing this, or
What?
man, this stuff will be awful for children, and then you like complete the orgasm, like
No, there's a mental hypnosis.
children should never see this. This is
You don't
awful.
you don't think about anything else.
I don't know.
Hilarious. But no, I mean that would probably limit my drive to go and fucking try to meet people in real life.
Yeah, I mean, right now you can have pornography, or you can go on your phone. You have this avatar that you create for yourself, and that gets the girls first.
Right.
But that comes down to parents.
Yeah.
That comes down to parents, because parents who go to their children, go to their sons particularly, and say, you have to have this amount of Riz because I want grandchildren.
Very good.
Yeah, I want grandchildren. So those basically boys with fathers, good fathers, are going to have more likelihood of having kids.
Yeah.
So now we're back to, we've decided to do natural selection on ourselves with this technology.
Yeah.
And it comes down to as a father, you can decide if you're going to have grandkids or not by teaching your boy right.
Yeah. We were talking about that too. Like we waited like a long time.
We didn't have our baby till we were together for like 10 years.
No, and it's because we're both kind of responsible, I think.
Yeah.
And if we had just been like, you know what, screw it.
Screw it.
Let's just have a kid now.
We'd be on our 5th, 6th kid by now.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
What are we going to do with all those kids?
Put them to work.
We just got the farmland. If you had told me 10 years ago you're going to have farmland, then I'd be like, yeah, I have to start having kids. Who's going to work that farmland?
Right.
And now we're trying to play catch up. Do we really want more than 3 anyway?
Yes. But your biggest complaint right now about man-children, the man-child phenomenon, is in our entertainment.
I just think it's dumbing everyone down. First off, can I say, as far as the whole society being dumbed and immature, you can't say certain words, even when you're talking to them in context. And I don't know who's listening right now, so I'm not going to say it to offend people, but you can't say the N word. You can't say the F word. You can't say anything to do with, a lot of times, like the J word is sort of like whatever.
The R word.
You can't say the R. All of these things, even if you're speaking in the context of that thing.
Right, like
in
if you
a
were reading a
scientific
quote,
paper.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
People are like, you said the word. She said the word. Oh my
It's
God.
absurd.
And it's like, this is like when we have to say something inappropriate in front of Roman and we spell it out. Like, are you serious?
Yeah, what
Are you
did I-
serious right now?
And they've done so, and there's different. Each word, I'm sure, has a different campaign behind it.
Yeah.
To stigmatize, to make it so like it's completely inappropriate. And yeah, obviously, you don't fucking just right, but there is a context in which like I'm reading a historical document
Yeah.
aloud.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop and say the N word,
And it's
which I am. Actually, this is what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So Twitter's obviously become like a racist cesspool. Of
Oh yeah,
nonsense.
white nationalist
And
central.
I've ruined my algorithm by just being like, man, I can't believe this, and I'm sort of like watching like bus crashes, and somebody posted something where somebody, I can't remember even what they were talking about, but somebody said like it was about the N-word, and somebody was like, "Man, I'm really racist, and I don't even say the N-word." Like they did a really good job making it.
Well, then now it's easy. As long as you don't say the words, you're not racist. As long as you use the buzzwords.
Right.
But are you telling me if I'm reading Huck Finn out loud, you can't say it?
Right.
But this also comes down to you can't write a character who is racist and make him at all sympathetic.
Yes.
Whereas 30 years ago, Archie Bunker
Right.
was this kind of person.
And this comes from like this again is the everybody's worst fears from like leftist policies, quote unquote leftist policies, kind of coming to fruition because there was a big controversy about removing the N-word from Huck Finn if you're going to read it in schools and like removing certain words from literature, right?
No.
Yeah, and I was always like, no, but I remember people being like, well, this is going to affect the whole thing. And now there literally are like think pieces being produced, which 10 years ago I'd be like, yeah, whatever, this is some idiot online. But those things seem to manifest into reality very quickly these days.
Well, it's peer pressure. Peer
Right.
pressure.
Of these people complaining about a character in a novel being bad and racist when the intention of the novel is that that character is bad.
Not only are they bad, that's one. They might be the villain, and you should have a villain you can relate to.
Right.
But that might be their character arc is to become a good person,
Sure.
and you
Or
can't
maybe
write
it's not. And that's just like, yeah, maybe you're writing something that's like realistic to 10 years ago.
Or yeah, so we can't write about World War II anymore
No.
because they were all racist.
Yeah.
They were all
Maybe not World War II. Let's say World War One.
girl. By our standards, everyone in 1940 was racist.
Yeah, that's true.
By our standards say it's both sides, everyone in the world, horrible racist by 2024 standards.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's the greatest story in our history.
Right.
That is our narrative. We can't write an honest thing about anything
Yeah.
having to do with that. What we watched, what was that? What was that vampire movie? Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot, yes.
And the
remake
bully.
of the classic
Yeah.
Stephen King, Salem's Lot.
And it was set in the 1970s.
Yes.
And it's like, we're thinking about this, and like, can you set a movie in the 1970s or 1960s and have the bully be authentic to what they would be?
Oh my God, yeah, because one of the main characters in Salem's Lot is a little black kid.
Yeah, the hero.
And yeah, the movie starts with him getting bullied by like this other kid, and he's like, "Get out of my way." And he just says like, what did he call him? He's like dummy or something. And I'm like,
Dummy, I
this
guess
is
it's more
rural
accurate.
Maine.
Yeah.
This is the only black kid in town. I think he would have had different words.
Yeah, and we shouldn't sugarcoat it because it's
No.
like what these people were like.
Right.
Because then we wonder, why did they think of these policies? Why did they do X, Y, and Z? It's because they were fundamentally racist.
Yes.
In a different way than their grandkids are.
Right.
So you shouldn't sugarcoat anything.
Well, it's this infantilizing of people.
Everybody.
that, like, yeah, we should be able to discuss these things, and like because it does influence and inform us on like all things. Like you should be able to get everything in its rawest context.
Yeah, and not even just the United States. If you go to most places in the
As
world right now,
adults.
as adults, you go to most places in the world right now, what they're saying in their native language would just shock you. For the amount of racism and sexism that is just common, what everybody believes except for the West.
Right. And I think I forgot if I said this on the podcast, but yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and it became very clear to me that a lot of people, because he's younger, he's like, what, Gen X or Gen Z or whatever.
Gen Z?
I think he's
They're
Gen Z.
under 28 and under.
And we were talking, he said something about like, oh, racism something. And I was like, well, it's basically human nature. Racism is human nature. It's basically like, you are different than me. I have a reaction to that.
Yeah.
And he was very surprised. And he said, oh, saying racism is in human nature is crazy. And I was like, oh, you don't know anything.
Oh,
because
you're
I
dumb.
have been around the world.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even comprehend the level of racism in Asia for people that like live 30 miles away.
Oh, yeah, because we're like, oh, it's Asian, the Asian diaspora. Like,
Yeah.
no, bitch. She is Chinese. I am Thai. You do not know.
And I don't know if this is unique to America, or unique to this generation, but it does seem like kids coming up hear the word racism and they think white people are racist against black people, and that defines racism. The only time I ever saw my Peruvian uncle get really actually mad is when somebody asked him if he was Puerto Rican. Like there are levels of racism that you can't comprehend in the world.
I might be, yeah, because the islands are different.
Yeah.
And so if you ask one islander if they're from another island, they, depending on which island, they're like, oh, no, but that's cool. But some islands are like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
just say this island. Mm-hmm. Y'all know the island we're talking about.
Yeah. We're not getting into island politics, right?
We're not. But it's like, we know.
We know. But I think that definitely is a contributor to this idea of like man-children, right? Like nobody is treated as an adult anymore in that context. You're not supposed to speak about things that are obviously true.
Yeah, well, the real truths of this world, this could also come down to just terrible history education. Because if you wanna know what it means to be a man with nature, like there's no rules. It's pre-Christianity. We didn't even pretend to believe in any of this bullshit. Then you read about what the ancients did on a daily basis, like the kind of lives that they led. Like a Roman soldier, because the animals of Rome had to go and look in the Colosseum at a tiger fighting a bear. They sent these Roman soldiers, because they didn't have the equipment we had, to go get a tiger and a bear.
Right.
And bring them to Rome. And so that's when they're not off on the front, like stabbing at other people with a spear. They had to go and kidnap an animal, bring it to Rome so that these people, these Romans, I shouldn't call them animals, but like to us, they're animals, can sit in the Colosseum and scream this shit. And that's human nature when we don't have not only Christianity, but Christianity plus Enlightenment programming. We don't have that program, and a lot of people who don't have that program around the world are essentially dangerous to who we are. And they don't understand that. They're just like, oh, they're different over there. It's like, no, you don't get that Western programming. You have no idea how dangerous human beings are.
Right.
And I think a lot of the men of this generation, and the women, just have never gone. Like, I lived in Pakistan for a while. I see how order is kept.
Yeah.
And just people they won't even acknowledge it. They won't see it.
Well, back to the entertainment, when we talk, because we were yelling about Joker. I've been yelling about Joker forever.
Yeah.
Movie Joker. I like Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
The first one.
Yeah, we haven't seen the second one. I cannot wait.
I want to see that so badly.
Very excited. We saw Cats in theaters.
Oh my God, I'd see Cats again right now. Oh, that was so bad.
Yeah, and I hear Joker's not good. But the first Joker, there's no reason that has to be tied to the Batman universe. That is just a good movie. It's like people have said that it's Taxi Driver. It's the story of Taxi. It's a more modern Taxi Driver. There's no reason that has to be DC's copyright Joker.
Yeah.
That was a very good adult movie, and it felt to me, this might not be the case, like they had to dress it up for this generation of people to be like, oh, I'll go see this serious adult movie because it's within the Batman universe. And that's so fucking depressing. Because the number of people who haven't seen The Master, which is about, it's a very thinly veiled L. Ron Hubbard Scientology thing. Joaquin Phoenix is in that. That is an adult movie.
Well, it's about adult things, grown-up things. Like this man who is an alpha male, probably got testosterone like going through his eyeballs, wants to have a harem, or not just a harem, but people follow him, which is a very primal urge in humans. And so he tricks them and gets them into his orbit.
But they didn't make him a Batman villain.
Yeah.
So very few people apparently saw the movie. So this movie about like a disenfranchised young man, which is what it is, they needed to dress it up so that disenfranchised young men would go see it.
Yeah, and that's also, I don't know if it's that our generation or Americans are so risk averse, they're not going to see something they're not already familiar with. Because the first Rocky was brilliant. The first Rocky. And now people are like, well, there's Rockies coming out now. But the only reason that we're watching it is because it has the Rocky.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the problem is like almost everything needs to be tied to an existing IP.
Yeah.
Which there are many reasons for.
And Rocky's...
I just got to say, Raging Bull was better than Rocky.
Yeah, Raging Bull was fantastic. Yeah, but that generation, maybe it was the last generation to demand adult movies. Did Gen X demand?
Well, there's also something to be said about the PG-13 rating, which we've talked about before. That like
Explain it real
basically,
quick.
well, they developed a PG-13 movie. It used to just be PG and R, right? And they needed something in between to sell to teenagers.
And this was around 1987, I believe.
Yeah, which is why you get some PG movies from before 1985 or whatever that you're like, damn, this is a serious ass movie.
Yeah, some of those old Disney movies, some of those old kids movies, they hit hard.
There wasn't this, there was less of it. I'm sure people will say that I'm completely wrong, but back in the day, it felt like it was like there were movies for kids, there were movies for adults, and then there were things kind of in between. And something happened when they added the thing in between would fall into the kids movies. So you'd get kids movies that were about something. And there's something about when they added the PG-13 rating, they found that that is the most profitable sector for a movie to hit, right? So
Yeah.
everything forever has been targeted at teenagers, which is now spread across all mediums. There's very little left for adults as far as like big budget films.
Yeah.
And there's a capitalist reason behind it. It's they make the most money.
They make the most money off
Right.
PG-13. That's
So
a
now
really good point.
This generation coming up, like our generation, who was raised like in the middle of this process.
Yeah.
Now, you can't make a big budget movie that's not tied to fucking Marvel or some superhero movie.
It's going to
or
lose money.
whatever. Yeah,
They
'cause
know it's going to
probably
lose
gonna
money. They're running the numbers. They know it's going to lose money. That's actually a really good point in that now our programming is to be 17
So
forever.
it shouldn't be surprising that we are an immature nation when like you're raising generations of people on immature bullshit.
That's a really good point. And also, the generations that raised us got watered down and watered down. So when they did have the R rating, well, they still have it, but when that was, for adults, I guess Gen X is the last one to be raised by adults.
Yeah.
We've been
And
raised
even-
by boomers who, they're not adults.
Right. And even like in my high school experience, I was in a high school that I remember kids that graduated like 3 years before me having a very different high school experience. Like, because I was in the video club or whatever. And so there was like these videos of kids like, doing ridiculous shit in the halls and like kind of like coming and going as they please, like smoking cigarettes right outside, like just shit. That we used to treat high schoolers like, little adults.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them would go out of high school, go get a mechanic's job, and now they're an adult. Now they got to get a mortgage.
Well, yeah, they're an adult now. You have kids at 19, married and kids at 19. That
Right.
wasn't so strange.
No. And I was sort of there in a transitional period where they started instituting more security. They started treating high schoolers like you would treat middle schoolers. And now I think that it's pretty standard across the country that high schoolers are treated like middle schoolers because it's not expected that you're going to leave high school and go get a job.
You're gonna go to
expected You're going to go to college and get your money stolen for the rest of your life.
That's another scam.
Absolutely.
That's another scam that started being played on millennials. I don't know if it's a scam or not. This is what I call everything a scam. But basically that you have to go to college. If your parents own a home or you're at all want to be in the middle class, you have to go to college to do that. So now college becomes what high school was.
Right. So that, I think, is probably the biggest factor of, you're coddled through high school now. You're coddled through college.
Yeah.
And especially because college, you're a customer at college.
Yeah.
You are the customer. They need you to stay happy.
The customer's always right.
Right. And a lot of way more informed people on this topic could say a lot more about this. But there is this idea that the colleges are going to do whatever it takes to keep you coming to college.
Yeah, and to compete with other colleges about how much more fun you're going to have at college.
Yeah.
I remember my college coming up, calling me, asking if I wanted to donate to some new student center, a rock climbing wall or some shit. And I was like, no, I'm not going to give you any money.
I've already paid you an incredible amount of money.
Yeah, you should give me some money for what went on now.
Right.
No rush to marriage, we didn't get into.
Oh, yeah.
Because you talked about pornography, that
Mm-hmm.
young men don't need sex from women, full stop, period.
Right.
Because they have pornography. pornography.
Right.
But also, young women, it's not like it used to be. It's like, yeah, you should have sex with men before you get married.
Yeah.
You should test it out. And now it's like hook up before you even date.
Yeah, it's the app called. It's the apps.
You
It's
think
definitely
it's
the
the
apps.
apps?
Oh, it's definitely the apps. I mean, they say that the top 5% of men are getting 90% of the women on
I
the
don't
apps.
know if that's true though, but
That's what I hear.
that's also like, okay, you have the option. Okay, I can buy this at my local store. I know my local store. I'm willing to spend 15% more to get it at my local store. And I know it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go on, let's say you go on a dating app, it's like Temu. It's like, if I can't get the most unbelievable deal, I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to go to my local store. So you're like on the apps. It's kind of like gambling. Maybe I'll get like a 10, but
Yeah.
probably I'm going to date the guy from my job.
Well, yeah. Well, in either way, the idea that it puts in your head that like this is just an endless supply of chicks. Like I could just be on here, and there's going to be a new one coming whenever.
Yeah.
Like there's no appreciation for
How hard it is to get what women are worth. And
right. And we know people like this that developed outside of the apps. But just
Yeah, we
this
do.
idea that I'm not willing to settle, like, nah, I could do better. I could do better.
Do you think that if women like refused sex to men until it was clear that it was like marriage was a prospect or something serious was a prospect, or you're raising this kid if I get pregnant, that there'd be a lot more marriages?
Definitely.
Really?
Definitely.
Okay.
But how are you going to do that? You're fighting the music industry at that point.
I mean, you're not just fighting the music industry. You're talking about, a lot of the ideas of feminism, the sexual revolution, that women should have fun too.
Right.
Well, as a woman, you have to not have fun because he doesn't get to have fun until he's fucking paid, and he hasn't paid for it. Neither of you have fun.
Right.
You're just gonna sit here, chaperoned by your parents, and sit in this hayride.
Yep.
And that's it. No one's having any fun.
Yeah. And then I think the last, I don't know if this was on your list, but if you think about the types of jobs that men are in now compared to the types of jobs they were in, there's obviously still manufacturing and there's still, warehousing
Yeah.
and stuff, but that's all going to go away faster than we think. And it's been going away faster than we think. A lot of men are in offices, are doing customer service, are doing these things that,
Desk jobs, and that's like the whole shift in our economy to basically white collar work, and it's now an election thing where we still need that work done. A lot of this work, the construction work, and cooking work, now it's done by immigrants, and people are like, "Oh, you don't want to do that work," but like, a lot of people do want to do that work.
Yeah.
If that work paid well, that work is so fulfilling that they would much rather do that than sit in a call center somewhere.
right. And
I would
those
say
call
that
centers, what I was going to get to is that those call centers, that is a female culture, right? Like office jobs by necessity, I will say also,
by necessity, yeah,
have a hard female HR culture.
because you have to get along.
Watch what you
getting
say.
along in groups, yeah.
Yep.
And we can't fight this out. Men and women are equal. We are all equal in God's eyes, and we are all equal for the value we bring to this planet and stuff you can't really quantify. But we're not the same.
Right.
And so thinking that we are the same and should be treated the same is folly.
I agree. Now I think we got to the bottom of it.
Yes.